Tame Impala. Tame Impala. Tame Impala!
It's like a celebration of the feeling of being these things.
After a 5-year wait since The Slow Rush and 10 years since his massive breakthrough Currents, Kevin Parker just dropped the next chapter in his catalog.
Calling an album Deadbeat, I don't want to, analyze it. I feel like it's not my job to analyze it, but I hope someone does.
Expectations were sky high, maybe impossibly high, and now that Deadbeat is out, the response has been mixed. One comment sums up the negative reaction pretty perfectly. I think I'm going to listen to Currents and cry myself to sleep. But Kevin always had a clear vision for this album.
If I didn't care about the music anymore and I just wanted to make money and sell albums, the way that you would know that is if I just did the same thing again.
Yeah.
But that wasn't the goal this time. He wanted to make something that felt right, not something that was commercially smart.
So much of this album rollout and process for me has just been going on what feels right, rather than what sort of intellectually seems like the smart thing to do.
So let's dig into Deadbeat and try to understand what Kevin was aiming for. Because to really get this album, you have to understand Kevin Parker as the person he is. A core theme of the album is radical honesty, being brutally open about your own flaws. Kevin unpacks his self-shame, but in a way that's strangely comforting. On the outside, he's this massive rock star, headlining Lollapalooza alongside Drake, Billie Eilish, and Blink-182. But behind that image is someone who's frankly never asked for the spotlight. He's talked about taking beta blockers before shows and interviews, because even as a kid, he'd get so anxious about how people saw him that he'd vomit in the shower before school. People assume he's this confident, larger-than-life artist, but Kevin describes himself as an introvert. He was expected to be the life of every party, a role he'd have to drink himself into. It didn't come easy. He'd literally hide behind his manager when meeting people, like a kid being introduced by his parents. It makes sense when you look at his upbringing. A messy mix of divorce, wife swaps, and re-swaps that left Kevin living in his mom's shed, only allowed in the house after a certain time to shower. He doesn't tell this story directly on Deadbeat, but he lets you inside his psyche, like a therapy session set to music. He went to therapy twice, and not only hated it, but felt that it might be bad for the music he makes. I've always been tempted by the idea of therapy, but I've always thought that if I did therapy, the music wouldn't have as much purpose. The album opens with Kevin lamenting how he keeps falling into the same patterns, old habits he can't seem to break, a theme that is very common in a lot of his albums. It feels like an anxiety storm inside his head as he repeats the lines like barely coping and here goes nothing. As it crescendos, he admits temptation feels like it never ends, I'm sliding, powerless as I descend. The video was filmed at the Wave House, his creative hideaway, in the same place he made Currents. It's more than just a studio, it's a character in the story. The Wave House has this historic reputation in Australia's bush doof scene, a kind of desert rave culture that inspired much of Deadbeat's sound and aesthetic. Then after the stage is set, we come into No Reply, an anthem for social anxiety. Kevin obsesses over every interaction, replaying moments in his head. Despite being one of the biggest artists in the world, he still sees himself as the guy staying home on a Friday night watching Family Guy. Now that we understand how awkward Kevin can feel in his own skin, he flips it on his head. Through nightlife and performance, he becomes someone else. I run back through the dark, now I'm Mr. Charisma, fucking Pablo Escobar. He's said before that performing his music is the only time he feels truly confident, the only time he isn't trapped in his own head.
Like music for me is the part of me that is bold and confident, and my personality has kind of always like just caught up.
Then Loser brings him crashing back to earth. Whether it's the morning after the same night or a new chapter entirely, the message is clear. Reality hits hard. I leave alone, in dark streets I roam. I cannot lie, I feel defeated. The high has faded and regret sets in. That leads us into Not My World, where Kevin admits he doesn't feel like he belongs, caught between normal life and artistic isolation. Offers a moment of peace. Here Kevin is grounded, present. Some fans think it's time with his daughter, while others think it's a metaphor for going back into the studio, his true safe space. Kevin has said that music has always been his escape, both from his physical past and his mental situation. Music was always there, no matter what. Family, school, alcohol, whatever. It was always the thing that was going to rescue me. Later, the tracks dig even deeper. Obsolete revisits broken relationships. Ethereal Connection lets the music breathe, a sprawling, immersive track that feels tailor-made for an open desert crowd, the heart of the bush doof scene that raised him. The album album starts to wind down as we get into track 10, See You on Monday, a song that talks about Kevin's uncertainty with the future. Like this album being a crazy weekend full of partying, this song is coming back to the realities like the Monday that comes after. On Afterthought, Kevin's favorite song on the album, he talks about a relationship that is clearly one-sided. The person refuses to give Kevin the same attention that he gives them. And the album ends with The End of Summer. This song explains a relationship that has ended completely and him mourning over its official end, while also looking back at the good times. There's an obvious love angle with this album, dealing with the highs and lows of a relationship in its many stages. But a lot of people speculate that this whole album is a love story about music and not a single person. But Kevin is the kind of artist who tries to not have an answer or the meaning for the music he makes. So I guess he leaves it open-ended so that you can kind of attach whatever you want to its meaning.
I feel like it's not my job to analyze it, but I hope someone does.
I'm not here to say if this album is good or not. It's certainly seeing some negative reaction from a lot of the top reviewers, which as a big fan of Kevin and his music is disappointing to see, especially knowing how much he clearly has anxiety about if he's making the right thing or not. When talking about Currents, he said, "I had more than one existential crisis during the making and release of this album. I couldn't tell if it was great or embarrassingly bad, not to mention the fans I would lose by switching up music styles so heavily. Will this album be one of the albums that slowly starts to grow on people and ends up being one of the more beloved Tame Impala albums? Probably not, but I hope so. But Kevin's grown so much as an artist now, he hopefully is more okay with switching up his styles. Either way, I can really appreciate Kevin trying something completely new." Thanks for listening.